So I'm gonna just give it a few minutes here to let some people join in if they want to. See if I can share this with everybody. So tonight I'm going to be working on finishing this cottonwood bark owl that I'm working on. Flip the camera around so you guys can see. I'm pretty much almost done with it, but I figured maybe give it a few more minutes to let anyone join if they are interested. While I'm waiting for that, let me just clean up some of everything to because all the chips get stuck and gathered. Just gives me a little bit of a cleaner working area removing this tape. So start working on this owl. A little bit of a fun fact with this owl. It originally started out as a portrait carving of Native American female with a tape, and I suck at it. I wasn't liking it. Kind of just putting finishing touches on pieces. I'm sure there's plenty of. I definitely want to work more on owls. Not just owls, but animals in general. A little bit more realism. What I'm doing is coming out okay. Get a little bit of self-conscious doing some of these pieces. like the feathers don't look like feathers, and the head is a little weird, and the eyes. Guess it doesn't really. If anyone has any questions about the podcast or what I'm doing or the tools or anything, shoot them in the chat. Let's see, give me some hard questions. All right, we got a little log that he's perched on. Wire. What I want to try and do is remove the rest of the tape in here. A wood chip that's stuck to it. Can't really see. I wonder if there's any better suggestions for how to mount these things. I don't like to screw into my workpiece in the back. So what I do is I double stick tape my piece. And I do that by using blue tape and super glue. And in these hot days, I think the glue of the tape kind of melts and gets all funky, so it's a little hard to peel off. So I also think I need to change my back of it board piece. All right. Let's see, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue his feathers here down the line? Why not? One thing I want to get better at on these owls is the feathers. They're not easy to do because they have a lot of layers to them. Owls are pretty like fluffy. What I'm working with is a little unforgiving. I make a mistake. Kind of hard to recover from it. Breaks off in chunks almost. It's a little bit hard on your tools also. It kind of dulls them a little faster than this one. Kind of. All right, lost connection there for a bit. Hopefully you guys didn't get kicked out. Let me see if I can check that. Okay, looks like we got some people back in the chat. I'm not sure what happened. I'm just adding the feather details in my little V tool, which I don't actually use all that often, but it's great for these little details. I was talking to a guest recently, and one of his bits of advice was to focus on form over anything else. And it's really got me thinking about focusing on form more than I have, because the details are actually really easy to do, but it's getting that form down which is a real challenge, especially when you're doing realism or animals, because you're trying to copy something that already exists. So if you end up carving it and it doesn't look anything like what it's supposed to be, one, it'll look terrible, and two, it's not going to look realistic, which is what you're trying to go for. Hope that's making sense. If you guys have any questions about what I'm doing, please feel free to ask. So I'm not talking to myself in my shop over here. Alright, kind of lining the wings here on the side. Kind of just use angles learned. But you know what? That's an easy fix. piece upside down. Take it down flat. Because featuring us, and he is dominantly in stone, although he is experimenting with some wood these days. Stone carvings, particularly bears, and his work is absolutely fantastic. And I'm excited for you guys to check out that episode. All right, what do I want to work on next with this guy? One of the things I did with his feathers here is I wanted to create some subtle texture to it, which doesn't really pick up in the video too much. I wanted to get some scratch lines in it, and I used this wire brush to kind of scuff up the wood, because the wood is actually soft enough to where this brush can do some damage. And it does give it a really cool effect, although it's hard to see on the camera. Piece knocks out some of that. Alright, I think I'm going to just clean up around the owl now. Get rid of some of these weird chips that are still hanging on. I don't know his eyes. His eyes are really on the top of his head too, bothering me. Hope you guys didn't get kicked out again. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see anyone in the chat, so maybe everyone got kicked out, which sucks, but let's keep on going. I don't like his eyes, so I am going to sort of start over a little bit. I'm not going to remove too much material from his eyes, but just enough. Actually, I kind of like that a lot better. Kind of frustrating when you're trying to do something and your internet keeps cutting out. I think that's better than what I had before. Eyes are a really challenging thing to carve. Because if you mess up the eyes, most of the times you'll mess up the overall aesthetic of the carving. I guess having the right tools makes a big difference too. I think I'm using the wrong kind of equipment for this, but use what you have. Yeah, I definitely like that a lot better for his eyes. I'm gonna just try to round things off a bit. You know, I do have these little I forgot what these are called. Little what do you call them? I don't know, ball grinder or sander, file. I don't know. I don't typically like to sand my pieces, but sometimes these tools are pretty great in removing material and softening things up. I wish I could remember what this is called, but I've had a long day. So just kind of using this to round over his eyeballs. Yeah, definitely got to utilize these tools a little more often. All right, next step. want to add some more depth to certain spots, like in here. So I'm gonna take these little triangle cuts out. Just create some shadow lines. Yeah, that looks cool. I think I also want to undercut his face mask, as I called it earlier. Gives it like a little bit of a separation from his head to his body. Did one side, let me do the other. Okay, undercut that a little bit. Where else? Maybe on the side here. I think I'll use my skew for this. Basically just going in all these corners to creating layers of depth. Right here's another area that's a little wonky. Gonna try and make these little breaks here where the feathers are. And in here by his feet. Definitely don't like how his feet turned out, but again, it's not something I'm great at and definitely need to practice. But I want to really undercut in here. And I know I'm definitely blocking everything I'm doing, but there's no better way to get in there. Just gonna round some things as I go. Keep undercutting things. Talons are a little weird, but I think people will get the gist of it. Just keep keep undercutting here. The other thing I'm trying to get used to is when I'm carving these bark pieces, I'm not used to carving a piece of wood that's not from a block or a square, like basswood. You know, I carve a lot of these square blocks, and cottonwood bark comes all janky and weird and crevices, and you kind of have to figure things out as you go along. And the type of material it is, it's very brittle and crumbly, so a lot of it breaks because I don't really like to sand things. But his head up here is a little too, I don't know, too lumpy. So I'm using this 320 grit sandpaper. And I'm not gonna go too crazy. Just gonna try to remove some of these awkward looking facets here. One thing you don't want to do is sand something and then take your tools immediately over after you sanded, because the grit from the sandpaper can dull up your knives and your tools. So you want to be careful about that. And I'm gonna do what I just said you shouldn't do and take my tools right over it, because I'm stupid like that. I'm just gonna create some notches on his feet here, because I don't like how plain and bare they look. I think birds' feet have these little wrinkles, or I don't know what you'd call them. Bird texture. Let's go with bird texture. All right, and last thing I'm gonna do here is on his feet, I'm gonna make a little bit more of a separation from his talon away from his feet, foot, whatever it is. No questions from anyone, huh? That's a bummer. Kind of like answering questions. You know, something else I could do is undercut the log. Maybe back here too, if I can get the angle. I think that looks better. I feel like I'm getting to a point where if I keep working some of these areas, something's going to break on me. So I'm going to take it pretty carefully. But I'm sure something will break on me if I don't stop soon. All right, we got an owl. Now I'm gonna do something I don't usually do on these lives, and I'm gonna add some finish because I'm calling this guy done. I like how he turned out. Sure, I could do more, I could add more, but sometimes you know when you're done, and I am done. So I'm just using mineral oil. You can use whatever you want, but mineral oil is what I have, so that's what I'm going to use. Here's the money shot. I just love the way that cottonwood finishes when you add finish. You get some of this excess oil. I think that looks really cool. What do you guys think? I think I got them all covered. Yeah. I'm gonna just let some of that oil sit there and penetrate for a minute before I wipe off the excess. I was thinking of trying to get some boiled linseed oil and trying that as a finish. I see a lot of people do that. I've always used what I have. I make a lot of cutting boards, so I have a ton of mineral oil lying around, but I'm actually running out, so I might switch and try something else for a while. All right, I'm gonna just blot off some of the excess. That's a really cool color. Camera definitely doesn't do it justice. Next thing I'm gonna do is pop this guy off real carefully. Like I said, I use double stick tape. So it comes off real easy, but it holds really well. And you can see what I did. I put blue tape here, blue tape on the back of this, put some super glue, good to go. Then when you peel it off, there's no marks in the back. So let me get a paper towel and I'll show you guys what he looks like. One sec. All right, this guy's looking really cool. Just removing some of the extra oil. That's a pretty cool looking owl. At least I think so. What do you guys think? I think it was definitely the right call changing his eyes. I like that a lot better. I think next time if I do one of these, I would try to add a little bit more detail to his mask area, the feather section. But I really like how this texture detail came out on these feathers. And then remember I told you about scratching in with the wire brush. Can't really tell here, but there's a lot of scratch marks that create that layer to the wings. So definitely want to do more of these animals. I think this guy came out really cool. And I like that he's flat on the bottom so he could stand up. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for tonight. Just a quick little live demonstration. Yeah. Hopefully you guys liked me finishing up this guy. If you want to see more of similar things, let me know what you want to see me carve, and I'll try to carve it. In the meantime, I think it'd be cool if you guys checked out the podcast if you haven't already. I have some really cool guests that are coming on. I'm trying to do some new things and branch out a little bit. Like this week's episode I mentioned, we got a stone carver, Andrew Gable. He does a lot of this type of stuff, but in stone. He does bears and really, really cool stuff. So be sure to check that out. And I will see you guys in the next one. So thanks for watching. Take care.